Welcome back to the series of tutorials, and in this video I'm going to explain about the best practices of interacting with database and one of the important database related design pattern. Database means Java programmers database interaction, that is JDBC. Yeah, very important design pattern related to JDBC. Okay, first, before directly we are entering into the necessary and the planned design pattern, which is called DAO, first let us see what are the problems of traditional or simple application development without using any DAO pattern. What regular fashion we follow while writing any JDBC client application. So first, I already wrote a program here. This is a simple JDBC program. This simple JDBC program is going to interact with the database, that is MySQL. Based on this driver class name URL, you can identify that. With what database I am connecting. I am going to interact with the MySQL database, and here usually people will pass the string literals, but what am I choosing here? I have stored the string in the variable. That variable I am passing here to class.forName, driver manager.get connection. In the same time, you can see the SQL string I have stored in one variable. Further, I am passing that SQL string to my execute query method of statement class in order to get the result. Okay, and here you may observe one more important design principle, that is how am I closing the connection. See, above the try I have created just a reference variable referring to null. All these connection statement, result set not mandatory, result set you can start anywhere. Why I am declaring these variables above the try block? That is important point to observe here. I have to close all of these things in a finally block that I am going to write after the catch. See here, after catch, these exceptions may be thrown during this try block. I am going to catch here what all exceptions it may cause to throw: class not found exception and SQL exception. Once our database interaction has completed, then in a finally block, if the connection is not null, then close the connection, and then if the statement is not null, close the statement, and if the result set is not null, close the result set. But here there is a small problem here. First I have to close the result set, after that statement, and finally last thing I have to close the connection. This is actually the sequence, right? So this is fine now. Now here this program works fine. I will execute the program. Yeah, before I am going to execute this program, I want to show the database table. See, this is actually the database table. Show tables, EMP table. Select star from EMP. Now you can see this is actually the EMP table which I am going to query from my JDBC client application. Okay, so you can remember any of the employee numbers, employee EMP number values. So I'll execute the program and here you enter any valid employee number, EMP number. So it will display the employee name and the salary 7782. Let us observe what is this 7782. Clerk, and his salary is 2450. So clerk and 2450. And if I give any invalid employee number 9999, there is no employee existing there in the employee table with 9999 EMP number. Now it shows the appropriate error message, that is in the else block. Here you may observe how I am moving the result set to the next record and retrieving data. If the result set cannot go to the next record, means there is no result existing in the result set, means the SQL query could not retrieve any data from the database table. So there is no point of, there is no chance to go to the next record to the result set. So control goes to else block and displays this message. So once everything is done successfully, See, observe here what is happening. During any of this statement, for example, class dot for name thrown exception. So what will happen? Control jumps to class not found exception and then finally block. So control goes to the finally block. Observe here, since class dot for name itself thrown exception, so none of these following commands, following statements are executed. So the result set is null. So this block is not going to execute. Statement is still null. It is not going to execute. So connection also null. This statement also is not going to execute. So finally comes out. For example, during the result set dot get string, if I have given any invalid column name here, what will happen? The column name is not existing in the table in the result set. So what will happen? So SQL exception is to be thrown. Control jumps here. SQL exception executed. I mean SQL exception related catch block executed. After this catch block, then again control goes to finally block. Now result set, is it null? No, executed. Result set means the select command executed successfully, so that result set is not at all null. So that result set is to be closed. After that, statement also not null. So statement also to be closed. Same time, after a statement, connection also is not null. So connection also is to be closed. So this is actually the way how you have to release the resources you have occupied using try, catch, and finally. Within the finally block, you have to release all the resources which you have blocked. This is actually the standard pattern, but we don't have that much patience. Since we are Java developers, we have to write a lot of code. Code length is so high, so we don't feel comfort to write lots and lots of code. The business logic itself is so lengthy. So these are application logics writing, lengthy application logics writing, again overhead to the Java developers. So in Java 8, Java manufacturer has given a wonderful feature, that is try with resources. What is that? Try with resources. So here, this closing formality the developer need not to keep on the developer's head. So who will close? Automatically, when the control crossed the appropriate try block, automatically the resources will be closed. You need not to take responsibility of closing the resources. That I wrote that one in another program. The same logic, everything is same, but the only difference is this is. What is this? Closing the connection. So not closing the connection, try with resource. What is this called? Try with resource. So after try, if there is only single resource, then no semicolon required, just this is not required. Everything you can conclude within the same line like this. But here we have multiple statements. So multiple statements you have to write like this, and remember to separate with the semicolon. And what is the scenario, or what is the use case for using this try with resources? Few predefined classes we have, classes or interfaces we have, which implements auto closable or closable interface, which if you are using any interface, that interface, super interface is closable. Suppose if you are going to use a class, that class internally excuse me, implements closable interface. So that closable interface implementations, maybe direct implementation or sub interface implementations, you can use here with try with resources. Okay, now here everything is same, but total business is same. But did you notice I never closed anything manually. Automatically the resources will be closed. Everything is perfectly same. Run as Java application 7782, which is existing employee, and I'm going to give an employee ID, employee number, which is not existing, invalid employee number. So yeah, this is another program. Actually, this is the production ready standard approach for closable resources using JDBC. Okay, now, okay, we are going into slowly we are going into the actual context. Now, another program I wrote, this other program is going to retrieve all the records. There is no filter, there is no where clause. It is going to retrieve all the records. So all the records means when I execute this program, simply it retrieves all of the records existing in the table. So hope these two programs are good, they are perfect, running without having any errors. But one program for retrieving single record based on the employee number you want to search, and the another program retrieving all the records existing in the table. Now, what all operations we are going to perform on database table? Let's try to recollect. Single employee retrieval means single record retrieval basing the primary key, retrieving all records, and what all other operations we are expecting? Save means insert a record, and the other one is updating an existing record. Finally, we delete which we don't want in the database table. These are the operations. What all operations? Retrieve a single record by ID, retrieve all records, save, insert, update and delete. These are the 5 operations usually we perform on database. So this is one program finding single record by ID, and this is the another program which is retrieving all records. In the similar way, I need to write 3 more programs for insert, update and delete. So altogether 5 programs it is. 5 programs runs very perfectly, very correctly. But whenever you think in terms of business, the client wanted to perform one operation, so you need to run its appropriate program. The client want to perform some operation, so that the client have to execute its appropriate program. Are you getting me? Here, if the client wanted insert operation, so maybe app underscore 04, the client have to execute Java space app underscore 03. If the client wanted to delete a record, so Java space app underscore 05 or 06, some appropriate program name. So how we can give, being a Java developer, how we can give a solution to the client where he can choose from the menu 1 for insert record, 2 for update record, 3 for delete record. That kind of a comfort we need to give to the end user. Being a Java developer, we have to give the comfort to the user. So how we can do that? Here we wrote a very lengthy code, though it is very perfect, but lengthy code we wrote. That is in one program we wrote retrieval of single record, in another complete program retrieval of all records. Instead of that, we are going to write another program where one method will retrieve single record, another method will retrieve all records, another method is going to insert a single record. This kind of an approach we are going to develop now. Okay, so let us see how we are going to do that. For that, I'm not going to use this project. Instead of this, I'll create another project. So even though I'm going to create another project, I'll copy almost everything from this current project. Okay, right. So I'm not going to close every program here. Just this app underscore 02, let us keep for a moment. Now I'm going to create a new Java project, that is DAO demo underscore 01. Even though I am not writing anything related to DAO right now, just the project name is DAO. Incrementally, let us upgrade the program to the industry standard benchmark, to the standard level. So next, nothing we need to do, just straight away you can finish. Now here, since I am going to interact with database, MySQL database I am using, MySQL connector library I have to attach to this current project in build path, configure build path, and here add external jars. Here in my system software folder, Java libs, MySQL connector, J. That is all, nothing more. Apply and finish, apply and close, done. Now, so what I told, first we need to define a class with all the necessary methods. One method retrieve the single record, another method retrieves all records, just like that. Okay, so we'll see how we are going to do that. For that exercise, instead of using that employee EMP table, I wish to use something else. I wish to use some other table. So first we'll go and create a table here in the database. So what is the table? Let us call it is a person. What all details we are going to store for person? ID, name and email. Just I am only taking 3 fields for brevity and for shortness sake. In the business anyways, we are not going to end up the database table with simple 3 records. Sometimes the number, not 3 records, 3 fields. Sometimes the number of fields will extend up to hundreds. Okay, so let us create a simple table. Create a table student. What all fields, what all columns it is going to have? ID, that is integer, and that should be a primary key. Then ID, name, varchar of 25, and then email address, that is again varchar of 40 characters. So that's all. One table I've done, I've created successfully. Describe table student. So these are the fields: ID, name and email. Let us insert couple of records into this table. Insert into student values. Now 101 is the student ID, and name, let's say my name Kishore, and email ID kishore@gmail.com, kishore@gmail.com, and comma, another record 102, again Kumar. These are all pseudo data. Kumar at gmail.com. Then 103, Sam at hotmail.com. Yeah, I have inserted 3 records in this table. Let us see what all records are there in student table. Okay, these are the records I have inserted in table. So very soon you are going to understand why I have used another table instead of I'm using my regular previous example EMP. Okay, right. Now here this whole code I am going to use in the new program. This I am going to copy. Done. Let us close this. We go to new project. Here, new class. Right. The package name is com dot anything based on the business need. You can choose the package name. Com dot ignite dot beans. That is my regular habit to create packages. And then what is this? What is the table name we have created there? Student, right? So student DAO is the class. What is the class name? Student DAO. Here 5 methods already I told. They are find by ID and find all, save, edit and delete. These are the methods, these are the operations we are going to perform, we wish to perform. Okay, so find by ID means find a single record by the ID. ID is the primary key field. Okay, now let us define that kind of a method. So public, the return type, let us think about the return type. For time being, let us call it is a string, and find by ID. What is the data type of ID? Did you notice here? What is the data type of ID field? Int. So int. The argument, it can be ID. That is fine. Now just to prevent error message, put a simple return statement written with empty braces, empty quotations. So error just for time being error prevented there. Now this is the code I have copied from the previous project. Now close the braces. Once here try completed, and then catch. What to catch? SQL exception. Exception dot print stack trace, and then another exception comes, that is class not found exception. So that is also to be printed. Done. Now what is the business we are going to do here? Class not found exception. Okay, so this class not found exception we are supposed to catch first. Class not found exception. Yeah, here I did not write class dot for name. I'll write here class dot for name of driver class. Done. Okay, now that error has gone. Right, now what next? This is finding a single record by ID. So what should be the SQL command here? What should be the SQL command? SQL is select star from student where ID equals to plus what is the ID, where you have the ID value, method argument, here you can see ID, that ID should be concatenated here. This is the string SQL. This SQL command is to be executed by JDBC. Okay, right, let us see how we are going to do that. Result set java.sql.result set. Make sure to import from java.sql.result set, but not from com.mysql.cj.protocol. That is not the one required, the upper one we have to choose. So rs equal to statement dot execute query of SQL. Done. Now executed. After execution, what we can do? If result set dot next means if there is a record existing with the given ID, result set can go to the next. If there is no record existing with the given ID, result set cannot move next, so that you go to else block. Okay, right. Now what to do? Here we have to retrieve the result set data. And how do we return from here? If you return in the form of a string, if you return the retrieved data in the form of a string, what the caller of this method can do with that string? After all, he can display, that's all. He cannot perform any other operation on that. Other operation in the sense, retrieve any other field's values, perform some other operations on the retrieved values. These operations the user cannot do. In that case, there is no point of returning string. So instead of returning string, you need to return as an object from where the user can retrieve any value. Here we have to start our logic. So result set data we need to convert into data transfer object, DTO. DTO is just nothing but a bean. What is that? Just nothing but a bean. Bean means simple Java class, that is class student. What is the table name? Student. So that here again the table, the class name is student. What all member variables you are going to put here? What all fields are there? What all columns are there in the table? ID, name, email, the same. ID, name, email. Okay, so int ID and then string name and then string email. Is it done? Almost done, but not. So we need to provide the necessary no arg constructor and constructor using fields, and then setters getters, and then finally toString method. So this is simply a bean class, reusable bean. Now actually, to be very to be more accurate, this DAO should not be in beans package, DAO should be in DAO package. Since I changed the package name, it is showing error message. What I have to do here, move option I have to choose from the suggestion, move. So DAO, another package is created and your DAO class will be moved into the given DAO package. Right, now the result set data you have to store into student class object, and then that student class object you are supposed to return, but not the string. So what is the return type? Student. Okay, so now here let us create a student class reference variable here, student by default. Let us make it null, and here when result set can go to the next record, what to do? This student reference variable equals to new student of no arg constructor you called, and before calling the constructor here, you can retrieve int id equal to int id, couple of variables, id, name, email, like 3 variables you create, retrieve results data into variables. So this is the point. First, what we need to do, retrieve results set data and store into local variables. id is results set dot get int of id, and string name that equal to results set dot get results set dot get string, which field you want to retrieve, name field you have to retrieve, and then another variable email, from where you have to get the email value, from the result set, get a string of email. That is all. Once this is done, why I told this approach instead of no parameter constructor, you observe now. Student, no, instead of calling no arg constructor, you call the parameter constructor. What is the first argument? id. And what is the second argument? Name. What is the third argument? Email. Just by pressing tab key and shift tab key, you can jump from one to another variable, forward direction or backward direction. Once everything is completed, once again you press tab, cursor which jumps out from the constructor members. Now student is no more null, student is referring to an object. Now what to do? This student object let us return from here. In the last, let us return the student object. Okay, but if, what should happen if it is else clause, else case? Yeah, here id is showing some error because id is a method argument, so we don't need to retrieve from the result set, store into local variable. That is not required. Finish, you remove it, done. Now here what to do in else clause, else case? Suppose if I am printing the exception here itself, like system dot out dot println employee not found with id, that is plus id. Yeah, let us observe what is the impact of catching the exception here. Okay, so this is simple method, right? This method let us call from the main method. So this is not here in this class, we don't write any main method. Main method should be in launcher class, main class. Okay, so let us define one more class, new class. So what is the package here? com.ignite dot app is the package. Now application underscore 01, first version of the application, let us say. Okay, here what we need to do, DAO object will create. What is the DAO object name? Student DAO. So student DAO equals to new student DAO of, done. Now student DAO dot find by id 101. So it is returning one student object. That student object I'll store here into local student variable. Now sys out the student object. Okay, now let us run this program. 101 student retrieved. Suppose if I don't want to hard code, so here you give ID and here use a scanner. Scanner is equal to new scanner of system.in. Now sys out enter ID, enter student ID, int ID equals to scanner.next int, then that ID you are passing here and retrieving. Okay, now let us execute. Right, that ID is 101 student details you got. Okay, instead of 101, if you give any ID 999, it is showing error message. Okay, employee not found with the ID, and finally it is returning null. Why it is showing null here? This is system.out.println null. In the case of exception, the DAO should not return, is not supposed to return anything. Okay, it should not return null even. And here, who is displaying the exception message, that is employee not found with the ID? The DAO class is displaying the error message. But in business, there is no chance of accessing the console to display any kind of message. There is no chance of accessing any console for input nor output. So if you displayed the exception error message on the console using the DAO class, that message will be displayed only server side console, but which is not available in the production. So you should not display the error message here. Not only this error message, you are not supposed to catch any exceptions here, any of the methods. All the exceptions to be reported to the client of this method, who is going to use try catch blocks. Here, who is the client? Main app01 is the client to this DAO class. So what is the change expected now? First thing, no catch here. Before that, instead of displaying the message, do not display any message. Throw exception. Which class exception we need to throw from here? Yes. Which class exception will throw? Is it SQL exception? Is it class not found exception? No. It is no way predefined exception. It should be custom exception. Okay. So what is that custom exception? Employee ID not found exception or invalid employee ID exception. Okay. So let us see how is that. How we are going to create that. Create new class, but where is it? In app? No, in different package, exception class package. So invalid employee ID exception. Okay, this is a custom exception, user defined exception. Okay, and this should be subclass of java.lang.exception. Okay, then constructors from superclass. That's all. Finish. You don't need to do anything on top of this. Just you define your custom exception and then close this. Now here you create new invalid employee ID exception with the string parameter. Okay, so what is a string? Last time during the execution, during the invalid context, what did you display? Employee ID not found colon. Yeah, this message. Okay, what is the ID? Plus ID. Like this, you are creating an exception. As soon as you create, you throw this exception. You got this? Create and throw the exception. So why it is showing error? You are not catching the exception. So keep the mouse pointer here. It will show you add catch class to surrounding try. Yeah. done, error has rectified. But just some time back I told, it is not good practice to catch any exception in any of the components. All the exceptions are to be thrown back to the calling method, from where you are going to call this find by id method. Exception is to be thrown there. Means from where am I calling the find by id? From the main I am calling. So to main, that exception is to be thrown back. So you are not supposed to catch any of the exceptions here. So what to do? Remove all catch blocks. Okay, remove all catch blocks. Then try with resources. Okay, so try with resources requires catch, because once otherwise we need to manually manage the connection. Okay, so let us do one thing. Only SQL exception let us catch, and remaining everything will remove. So it is showing error message. So what to do? How to prevent this error and how to handle this error? Instead of catching, you declare this throws declaration with the method declaration line. See here, I will show you once again. Throws declaration. Okay, so in the main method, in the find by id method, throws class not found exception, invalid employee id exception. These two exceptions it is showing. So far in the main there was no error. Now main is showing error. What is that error? Yeah, here this find by id causes to throw exception, so that you have to write appropriate try catch blocks. It may be any of the try catch block, maybe try with multi-catch, try with multi-catch or traditional try-catch, anything is fine. But this student display you have to put here within the try block. So this is the way you need to handle the exception and catch the exception and accept the return value. Now let us see once again. We'll give 101 valid employee ID, perfectly worked, and we'll give any invalid not employee ID, student ID. Invalid, oh, the class name is employee ID, my bad. Actually it is not employee, it should not be employee, it is student. We'll refactor that. How you can refactor? Here refactor option comes when you right click on any class and click on rename. Instead of employee ID, you give invalid student ID. Right. So as a result of refactoring, everywhere automatically wherever you used there, everywhere it gets updated. Now in the DAO, student not found. Okay, done. So far everything is done. But yeah, exception caught. Where exception has caught? In the main method, exception has caught. Okay, so fine. One operation has done successfully. Now another operation we need to do. What is that another operation? Finding all students. What? Finding all students. Right. So here almost code we will take, and here find all students. Now public, the return type, let us call it as a string. So find all and a return blank string. Okay, now what to do? Again the same code, lot of same code. What is that? Driver, URL, username, password, variables. So here scanner not required because all students to be retrieved. So here there is no local student variable requirement, and here lot of boilerplate code here, lot of boilerplate. So student retrieving all. Now yeah, from here I'll write everything. Okay, so class dot for name throws exception. What is that exception? Class not found exception. since I am not ready to catch the exception here, what I have to do, I have to report, I have to declare to be the exception thrown. Finish. Okay, now what to do next? Earlier single record is there to retrieve, so that if condition we used, but here so many records are there, so many records we need to retrieve. So while result set dot next. Okay, now int id, string name, and string email. So id, from where to get id, from where you get the id value? From the result set dot get int of id, and then result set dot get the string of name, then result set dot get string of email. I got all these things. Now let us start thinking. If it is one student, one object returned, but here so many students are there, how and what do you return from here? Single string, a string is no way sufficient, no way required here, but what we have to return from here? Array can be written? No, arrays are not at all recommended to use in production grade code. So what to return? We have collections, so any of the collection you can use here. So what would I return? List. Java.awt list is there, Java.util list is there. You have to choose from Java.util. List of what? Student. Okay, now what is to be returned, that you instantiate here. So list of java.util.list, otherwise array list you take, array list of students equals to new array list of. Done. Okay, now you got all the result set values into local variables. You have to create a student object using this id, name and email. That student object you keep in students. Observe, student. So student equals to single student. I am creating new student of id, name, email. I got student object in my hand. That student object I have to keep in my list of student, that is students. Students dot add a single student. Done. Now finally what should I return from here? I have to return the students. What should I return? Students. Okay, now that's all. This is the way you have to retrieve all the students, all the records of a table. Now let's come back to the main and let us test how well is it running. Here this whole code is to retrieve not that whole, this line is to retrieve single student, but here in this scenario, in this particular context, I am going to test the retrieving all records. So list java.util.list of student. So students equals to DAO, student DAO dot find all. So I got all the students, all the records into my list. Now I'm going to use the for each loop for single student called student, which obtained from students. Now what to do? Sys out the retrieved student. Okay, finished everything. Here invalid student ID exception, there is no point of throwing invalid student ID exception. You may observe the same here. There is no point of throwing invalid student ID exception. In what scenario you get invalid student ID exception to be thrown? When you are searching based on ID of the student. But here in this scenario there is no searching, retrieving all the records. So no searching, so no exception to be thrown on that name. Now let us execute. Before executing, let us update the import statements and execute. So it is asking the student ID, whatever ID you may give, it is not going to do anything, it is not going to impact anything. Here when you are not searching the students by ID, just remove those lines. Now let us observe. See, all students data retrieved. Now, is this done? Is this DAO? No, not at all. Then what is DAO? Yeah, observe. Here, in these two methods, we wrote lots and lots of boilerplate code. Actually, here, from where exactly it is very required, this from this statement, this only portion is required in that method, and in this current method, find all method, only this portion required, but remaining all is a template or boilerplate code, or you can say code noise, meaningless, nonsense, useless. So let us remove all repeated code which drag down the maintainability. Okay, so what we can do here, we need to define one separate class. In that separate class, we are going to create connection. That connection that class gives to the current class. So we can call it as the helper class. So that helper class is going to give connection